Eugene, how are you doing?
How are you, Elizabeth?
I'm pretty good. I guess I want to talk to you a little bit about revision today, since that's something we spend a lot of time doing when we're working together.
That's right. Okay.
And of course, as an editor, it's something I think about every day. And, trying to find the best way of helping a writer revise their work.
And what do you find? What do you find the most difficult thing when you speak to a writer?
Well, I'm British. So I'm always told that I'm blunt. No matter how hard I try to be kind and phrase everything very gently, I nearly always get feedback that I have been very honest. So I guess, I think different writers need different kinds of assistance in revising.
Right.
And I also find that, well, once a fellow editor said to me, you need to say everything twice to a writer.
Because they're that stupid.
You need to say it in different ways.
Okay.
Not because they're stupid, but maybe because they're resistant sometimes to hearing that what they've created so far isn't perfect already.
Yeah, well, that's actually very true. I think that there is a moment, there's a period when one goes into revision, when you actually can't hear things. You are too close to what you've written. And sometimes I find, even because I revise and revise and revise before I show it to an editor. And sometimes I'm so close to the text that when I print it later, I find that I have misspellings and mistakes and I miss words. I can't even see it anymore on the screen. It's so in my head. And that's the moment when you really need somebody else. And I think somebody who you trust is really important.
Right. Somebody who you trust to tell you the truth, who probably isn't a family member.
Yes.
I've found that family members love you, and so they think everything you do is wonderful.
Of course.
And, of course, in some ways it is. That's true. But if you're writing for publication, then you're going to be putting your work out in front of people who have never met you and don't know anything about you.
Right.
And who don't have access to any of the thoughts in your head, or the experiences you've had, or the way you even sound when you talk aloud. All that person sees is what's written on the page. And so getting the writer to realize that it's ultimately what's on the page that matters and not anything else is like often a first step. And I agree with you, like the writer needs distance from the material so that they can sort of see it with the same kind of cold eye as the editor does.
Well, I heard that. Do you agree with that, what you just said? It's absolutely true. I heard that saying that time is the best editor.
Yeah, I've heard writers say, they've gone back and read things and they can't even remember writing them. It feels like they're reading something by somebody else.
Yes, it's indeed, it's true. It's true. There's a really good tip on that, because rewriting sometimes takes so long and it's such a lengthy and difficult process. And whatever idea you had originally that you were passionate about, you slowly and gradually start hating it. So I think the good idea is when you come up with the concept that's really good, that you feel really good and you feel really passionate about, take a piece of paper and write down, why are you passionate about this idea? What excites you? Why is the greatest idea in the world? Then take that piece of paper, fold it, put it in an envelope, seal it, and don't open it until you start hating your material.
Oh,
Could be a year from now, could be 2 years, depends how long it takes. And then you open it and you understand why you're doing this. I think it's really helpful. I do it all the time.
well, that's interesting. But I think, I mean, you also need to leave room for an idea to evolve, because sometimes the initial germ or the initial idea for a book becomes less important as the work itself develops and kind of takes on its own direction and its own momentum.
That's so true. But it's also, I think it's also a period in revision when you start listening to what the text is telling you. And it's probably the most difficult part of writing, actually, to actually hear what it wants from you. It's telling you, you know, I'm a little boring, or this is a little too fast, or this is too slow, or you don't need this character, or you have two characters that have the same function, essentially. So
Oh, yeah.
kill one, you know, and give the lines to the other one. Or sometimes you switch the lines between characters in the scene. So yes, it evolves throughout the process, but the sort of the kind of passion is important to maintain, I think, throughout, or at some point.
Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't be a writer if you didn't have a passion for it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Another thing I wanted to mention in terms of just feedback is that, and I actually often come across this with my students when I teach. I teach not writing, but art and animation, stuff like that. And they always say that they like it, or they don't like it. And it's on that kind of level, like dislike. But I think what I try to teach them is to see what the author, the artist, intended. Try to see the intention, and then advise to how that intention, in your opinion, could be better carried out.
Right. So you're working with the author rather than trying to turn their work into something that they don't want it to be.
Or had no idea that's what it was. So several times it happened to me when I submit my work and the editor would then get on the phone with me and tell me why they love it and why it should be a totally different book. You know, and then you kind of, well, you know, that's not what I intended. I mean, it's a good idea. Yeah.
So when you get revision suggestions from an editor, how are they how can they be the most useful for you? Like, what form do you like to see them in?
Oh, you mean orally or verbally, or in terms of written down? Oh, it doesn't.
I mean, doesn't matter.
No, that doesn't matter. As long as what, you know, people accuse you of, as long as it's honest. I don't need anybody to tell me, oh, you know, I like it or I love it. It's just, I don't care, you know.
Yeah.
But what I do care is about feedback that is about what doesn't work.
Right.
Because I you know, we don't see
that's
it.
No. And I think, you know, from the editor's point of view, I try to sort of, like, if we're talking about a novel, I try to see it, you know, almost like a bunch of different foods on a plate. So, you know, and all together they make up a delicious dinner, but you don't really want just a plate of peas, for example. So, you know, you have, there's a balance that's needed in the book. There's a balance of characters, as you said. Sometimes a character, or there can be 3 or 4 characters who really are completely unnecessary, and there's not enough about them to make them be satisfying human figures. They're kind of throwaway, and they should either be developed or they should be gotten rid of. And then, you know, I think, okay, so that I think about the characters, I think about the plot. Okay, so, you know, obviously there's going to be a plot of some kind, and it's going to move us from the beginning to the end of the book. And we want that to have highs and lows. We don't want it all to be frantic. One of the biggest errors I see probably in beginning writers is everything is kind of at a fever pitch in chapter 1. There's nowhere really for the writer to go because everything is already sort of so high stakes. And I, you know, in my head, I call that TV writing because it's very dramatic. And, you know, you're inevitably going to have a rescue by helicopter very soon because there's no way out of the situation you've created except helicopter.
Well, I totally agree. It's interesting. I think one of the most important thing is, well, it's kind of twofold. That on one hand, yes, you want to draw the reader into the story fairly quickly, but you also need to teach the reader how to read the book. There is a process in which you kind of open the doors and allow the reader walk into your story. And if you skip that step, if you go straight into action or high suspense or heightened drama, then you skip that step and the reader becomes just a witness to the proceeding, to action, not a participant in it. And of course, our goal is to have reader participate in the plot, even in the character transformation. They have to be involved in some way, right?
Right, in the world of the novel. They need to know what the world of the novel is and the texture of the novel. Right. If it's humorous, they need to know that straight away.
Yes.
So yes, I agree with you. The beginning is really important, but it can't just be all action because, you know, that's not really satisfying in a proper novel.
Well, absolutely. And you said it. It has to have a progression. It has to move up, and the stakes have to increase. And if everything already is so dramatic in the opening, there's nowhere to go, as you said. So
right.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to this?
Well, I guess just to tell people that writing a novel or any book is a fair amount of work, and people work hard at it, and you can't expect that you're going to be brilliant right out of the gate. You might be, but most likely you'll be like everybody else, and you'll have to work hard if you're going to get published.
Well, yeah, but it's a good work because it's a real pleasure to do this.
Yeah,
I love it.
It is.
Elizabeth, thank
Me
you
too.
so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom. I'll see you soon.
Always good talking to you, Eugene. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.